Hey fellow animators, I'm Milos Cherny. Let's continue just where we left off in a previous video and continue skinning this Dino-Bird model. In the last video, I should probably point out that this Dino-Bird skinning video series will be about skinning with envelopes, which we already did in a previous video, together with manual fixing of vertices with weight tool and painting weights. So a linear skinning basically. 3ds Max offers you more options that you could use instead of envelopes, like voxel weight solver or heat map for example. Both of them can give you nice results with just a few clicks, and you could skip setting of envelopes completely. I could use it for this model as well, but I wanted to show you how you would do this with basic tools in older versions of 3ds Max. Voxel weight solver and heat map are in 3ds Max only from version 2016. If you have never done skinning for some more complex models like this one for example, I feel like you should first go through the whole process like I will in this series, at least once, without using the more modern tools like voxel weight solver. The reason for this is that even with the modern tools you still have to do a lot of manual skinning to fix the problematic areas. The skin would be maybe 80% done with voxel and you would have only 20% of manual skinning to do. Now with envelopes like in this series, let's say the skin is only 70% done and you need to do more manual skinning. But because these tutorials are about explaining and learning basic principles, in my opinion, you should do a process like this at least once. So when you will have to skin a very particular model, you will always know what to do. Okay, because these videos are without almost any cuts, you will see my exact workflow as I would do it off the record as well. One more additional nice thing to do before we start is to hide all the envelope gizmos to have a cleaner workspace and to avoid visual clutter, because we are already done with the envelopes. I keep it like this most of the time. Envelopes still display those gray lines which I can click on and select that particular bone I need. So I'm going to start with back legs. But with skinning it doesn't really matter with what part you start. I tend to start with more isolated areas like legs or tail, but it's really up to you. Weight tool and paint weights tool are the ones I will use the most. I start with painting to fix the area generally and to actually fix everything I can with that tool. When I get to some parts that need to be done more precisely, I set values for individual vertices with the weight tool. You can also use some third-party plugins for these tools to improve the quality of life usage of them, if you want. I don't use any, but it might speed up your workflow a bit. By the way, you can see how helpful the skin test animation is, the one we did in a previous video. Even though it's such a boring task to do, the skinning couldn't be done without it really. Now I can just slide the timeline and see how the leg moves. The front part of the upper leg was done pretty okay already with the default skin, but this back part needed to be weighted to pelvis more so the vertices move more to the right. You can see I have switched to pelvis bone because with skinning you almost always want to add weights to vertices, not subtract them. The reason for this is that now you know that these vertices are being added to pelvis. If you would just subtract them from the upper leg, you wouldn't know where that subtracted weight gets spreaded. That's one thing you should always keep in mind when skinning. Okay, the upper leg starts to look much better now, but we still have some issues here. By the way, once in a while you can activate the paint blend weight and paint over the area you just did. What it does is that it blends the value for a vertex from other vertices around it, so it smooths the surface a bit. Now I need to fix stuff more precisely, so that's why I have switched to manually selecting the vertices and editing them with the weight tool. I want to keep the sharp bend here, but I wanted to smooth it out a bit. However, with skinning you have to keep in mind that when you fix one pose, it will affect the deformations for other poses, so it's always a compromise between them. So for the knee, I will use just the weight tool, because there aren't a lot of vertices here and the area is quite small for painting. I was trying different setups here first, different values for vertices in the same loop. But in the end I ended up with the same values for the whole loops, which I thought worked pretty well. The middle loop is split precisely between those two leg bones, and the loop below it has 90% weighted on a calf and 10% on a thigh. You can see that in a weight table here, and it works pretty well. Now let's do something similar for the ankle. You can see me adding some new poses to the test animation, so I can see the deformations better. Also, I felt like the back finger was getting in the way, so I moved it a bit. The backwards bend looks actually kind of okay, so I didn't do anything there. This forward one, however, has this big sharp gap, and this is actually an example that cannot be fixed with just linear skinning. You can see that I am trying to weight those middle vertices to both bones just to see if it won't fix it, but the vertices of course just move right or left. You could maybe use dual quaternions here or other volume preserving tool, but keep in mind that that would not export to the game engine if you want it. This model is not meant as a game model however, but because this pose is pretty extreme and it will not bend that much usually, I have decided to keep it like that. But even though you could actually improve it a bit with moving the pivot of the ankle bone. That's why I always tell you that the placement of pivots is the most important thing while rigging the models. Okay, let's move to the fingers now. The fingers are again a part that I do exclusively with just a weight tool. I didn't even set the envelopes for them in the last video if you remember, because it can be done pretty quickly manually. You just move loop by loop and distribute the values between the bones. Where two bones meet, set the value 50-50 between them, then 90 and 10% for the next loop and so on. In the end it will look something like this. It really is not very complicated after you get into it a bit. Now do this for all the other fingers. You can visually check every single vertex here, because there aren't that many of them. This area can move a bit more for example, and stuff like this. This is what skinning is about basically. Even voxel weight solver would not help you here, you just have to manually go through each vertex around the fingers. Again, same for the other finger. Here, you can see I am first setting the value to 1, so I know everything is weighted on just this bone. And then hit 0.1 for the other bone to set it to 10%, because I always want to add values, not subtract them. And the last finger is pretty standard stuff again, the same thing we already did for the rest of the fingers. So now the leg is all done. I'm looking for some more details that could be improved, but it's mostly just small things. We don't need to do the other leg because we will mirror the weights after we are done with the whole rig. So that's it for now. This is how you skin in 3ds Max with envelopes, painting and setting up weights manually. We will continue with the front legs in the next video. Thank you to all my Patreons and see you all later. I am Miloš Černý and thank you for watching.